Well, welcome back. That's the sound. Welcome to the Financial Shepherd Happy Hour.
Cheers.
Cheers. My name is Joshua Casey Garland, certified financial planning professional, owner of Shepherd Wealth Management. Here with my good friend and video editing genius, Ezra Kellerman. Welcome to the show.
Glad to be back.
Yeah. Cheers. Happy Friday. Any plans for the weekend? Get started?
Unfortunately, no. Just more work. Might find a little bit of relaxation maybe tonight, but other than that, got to plowing through the weekend, as they say.
Yeah, I like to hear that. Well, there's a lot to cover here today. The reason why we do these little happy hour shows, one, it's fun at the end of a week, especially after this year, with months of things going lower and lower from a price standpoint in the major averages. It's good to have a little recap of what happened this week. Why did it happen? What can you do about that? And what to look forward to next week. So we like to do these on Fridays. And just have a little fun for 10 or 15 minutes and also provide you with some really important information because you guys are busy. You have real jobs. I have a real job, but it just happens to be focusing on all this kind of data.
I have resumes out. So if anybody
needs some really good video editing, you can hit us up at the 513-630-2664. And it's a great place to send your questions to for this show, as well as our big podcast, which we just did one yesterday.
Up on the YouTube now.
We just dropped that. You can go to shepherdwm.com. It'll take you right to our website. There's a whole bunch of information about myself and my background, and also gets you a bunch of information regarding all the podcast shows that we've done right there on YouTube, as well as Spotify. If you're driving around, pull the audio version of that. You can also find it right there at shepherdwm.com, which was a really good show, by the way. At least I thought it was.
I thought it was great. Yeah, it was a necessary errands of some grievances that turned into a moving catharsis for Joshua. So if you want to see what that looks like in real time.
I had to look up that word specifically when it was in there. I was like, wow, that's some pretty good vocabulary that I didn't write myself. So appreciate what you do, Ez. So what happened this week in the market? Super volatile week on the heels of the Fed announcement of increasing rates and the hawkish tone that they have about continuing to need to increase rates for the remainder of this year. And it sounds like that may even happen in the beginning part of next year. That caused a lot of volatility in the markets. The S&P 500 was down 2.87% for the week. NASDAQ was down 5%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average was down 1%. And that comes on the back of really the best month we've had performance-wise this year for 1 month, October being just an excellent month. Essentially gave away the gains for the NASDAQ and most of the gains for the S&P. Dow is still certainly positive with a really stellar month of October, really the best performing month of October for the Dow Jones Industrial Average since 1976. Now, what happened today that caused a lot of volatility? It had everything to do with jobs. So 261,000 jobs were added to the U.S. economy, which I'm pumped about.
Yeah, I mean, you love seeing people get jobs, right?
October was a really strong month for jobs, although good news is bad news in this example because the Fed made it very clear, like because we have such a tight labor market, he feels like he continued to increase interest rates without actually causing, a significant recession within the United States economy. Economists were only expecting 200,000 jobs to be added from last month, and we got way more than that. So
more.
I'm going to do a little cheers to all those that got a job.
Congrats.
And I will never be the guy that wants to root for job loss. But that is, in fact, something that the Fed is trying to pull off without causing a recession. I certainly don't want to see anybody out there losing jobs. But we did see the slowest job growth in October. It was the fewest jobs added in a month since December of 2020. The unemployment rate actually ticked up. It was at 3.5%. It ticked up to 3.7%. So that actually should be, unfortunately, music to the Fed chair's ears. I don't like to see that. We're still at historically low unemployment rate, by the way. Their target from the Federal Reserve is 4% or lower. That's what they would call full employment. So if they see something a little north of 4% in this environment that we're in right now, it probably would significantly cause them to rethink the way they're going about increasing interest rates and hopefully pausing and then eventually, cutting interest rates. But as we talk about the job market, we have to also talk about the labor market. So the labor participation rate, super important, was actually down just a tick. It was down 0.1%. It's barely noticeable. And it got down to 62.2% from a labor participation rate. and it has dropped in each of the last 2 months. And it still remains 1.2% below where we stood pre-pandemic in February of 2020. So it was a lot of people that went through the pandemic that decided to retire early. Some people, I know my wife is one of them, just did not go back to work. We had a small child, and she got to stay at home. Thankfully, very thankful for that. So that's a big reason why we're seeing some of these changes in labor participation rates. But the sectors that saw the most growth, healthcare saw the most jobs added, 53,000. We had professional and technical services. So the tech industry, even though you've seen headline news of Amazon, a bunch of others that are having a freeze for hiring for certain sectors of their business, they still saw from that sector of the economy 43,000 jobs added. And then leisure and hospitality added 35,000 jobs. So some of the big highlights from job growth perspective, and a lot of economists and analysts would actually look at this kind of information and say, okay, if we actually do experience a recession in 2023, these sectors of the market might actually hold up fairly well relative to all the other sectors that are out there. I think that there is some truth to that. Obviously, it's not a blanket statement by any means, because they have substantial stock market performance from something like hospitality and leisure during a recession. That doesn't necessarily logically jive with me. So I would want to go ahead and do a little bit more homework if I decided to add something like a Hyatt Hotels or a Marriott Hotels to clients' portfolios. I wouldn't just simply look at this information blankly and say, oh, yeah, this is where I need to allocate my money. Although we at Shepherd Wealth Management, we're definitely heavy in the healthcare space, and we've actually added to that, specifically in the biotechnology space. The ticker symbol, the ETF we use for that is IBB. It's a broad-based index ETF that tracks the biomedical sector of healthcare. It's never actually had 2 consecutive years of negative performance until this year.
Ooh.
Last year was negative, and this year was first time ever in the ETF's history. I would say and argue that healthcare, by and large, generally is a way to play offense and defense in a recessionary or volatile stock market kind of environment. Because if Ezra breaks his arm this weekend,
Gonna happen.
regardless if we're in a recession, he's going to go see a doctor and get that fixed. He's not going to worry about if Jerome Powell is going to increase interest rates. And the same thing is true from a biopharmaceutical perspective. They still need to make and create drugs to solve things like, Alzheimer's, cancer, whatever the thing may be. That has nothing to do with what interest rates are or the state of the economy itself. Now, that's what happened this week. What to look forward to next week. Next week is absolutely huge. Tuesday, November 8th is election day. So now is your chance to register and vote.
Make sure you vote.
Huge day. Markets are trying to anticipate the outcome as we're talking right now for next Tuesday. Again, another big reason why we saw a lot of volatility leading up to the midterm elections, which shouldn't be all that surprising if you look at what history has to say. And for those of you that are Shepherd Wealth Management clients watching this, that was heavily discussed in our newsletter. Also, we talked about that on our podcast. So if you're not a client, you want to catch that information, go to shepherdwm.com. There's a spot to our YouTube channel right there on the top of the website. You can click on that and watch season 2, episode 13.
Episode 1, also, you went into really in-depth coverage earlier this year. We knew it was coming.
Yeah.
Joshua broke down all the data and historical precedents for how the market would behave this year.
It's almost as though CNBC's like watching my show secretly and just taking pieces of it and starting to talk about it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool. I don't know if that's happening or not. But Tuesday, November 10th, go vote. We will also get the University of Michigan consumer sentiment data during next week. I believe that's going to come out on Thursday. Also on Thursday, circle this on your calendar. You get the new inflation data on Thursday, November 10th. It's basically, a recurring Super Bowl kind of event for those that are in this industry. Obviously, we'd like to see the inflation numbers come down. That would be bullish for stocks. So a hell of a week coming up next week. If we actually see, midterm election results come out the way the market expects, and we actually get a cooler number in inflation, could be a really nice week for a rally. Obviously, the reverse is true. So prepare accordingly within your portfolio. And again, if you are looking for some ideas on that, check out the most recent podcast episode, and a lot of things we've talked about all year long as it relates to how to position for things like this. But here's the excellent news. There's been 18 midterm elections since World War II. And 12 months later, the stock market has been positive every single time. Now, I'm a fiduciary. I'm a financial planner. I'm obligated to tell you all that past performance is no guarantee of future results. The one thing we know about human beings is we really haven't changed at all for 2,000 years, so we've not really learned from history. And that's why we kind of do this show, is the news will tell you what's going on in that day, but they don't really provide a lot of historical context around it. This is information I cannot make up. It's happened 18 out of 18 times. No guarantee, but I'm going to go with what history has to say and prepare for what I believe to be a pretty strong rally coming into the end of this year and beginning part of next year. Typically, this is the best 6 months for stocks post midterm election.
Yep.
When we talk about that, 12 months post midterm election, the average performance of the S&P 500 is positive 16.3% post the midterm election. So prepare accordingly. Buffett would tell you, if you're watching all the political advertisements, which you really can't miss if you actually turn on the TV or even the radio for that matter.
Yeah, the radio's the worst.
It's playing into human emotion, right? We're all hardwired with fear and greed. We talk about this regularly here at Shepherd Wealth Management. The news does a really good job of playing into those emotions that we all have. And from an investment standpoint, it's the absolute killer for most individual investors. Buffett would tell you that if you're specifically, his quote was, if you mix politics and investing, you're making a massive mistake, because people tend to get very emotional this time of year as it relates to things like politics. And for whatever reason, that tends to translate over into investment decisions. That's really what you want to try to eliminate, that emotional aspect of investing. Just completely try to eliminate that. We have an excellent process at hand to help folks do that. And if you have any questions, give me a call, 513-630-2664. Be happy to go over what we've done for folks all year long in preparation for the events that are getting ready to take place next week. So I think this was a hell of a good happy hour episode. We're right in line where we want to be from a time standpoint. I covered a lot of ground for you guys, and I'm ready to kick off the weekend. I don't know about you.
Oh, yeah. Well, don't forget, we're hanging out Sunday also.
Sunday, yeah. So we are going to be making a charitable donation. We did this last year. The Incubator Kitchen Collective. This is their annual fundraiser. It's a super cool nonprofit. I wish there was a nonprofit catered towards people in finance the way that this thing is set up for people in the food industry. So we have a space. There's about 50 different food entrepreneurs. Most of them are very green to the industry. Some have had a lot of success, and several in between. But we're essentially allowing everyone to share this kitchen equipment at a very low cost. We're also giving them the ability to sit down with board members, and we all have our own area of expertise. I help out with things like finance. Yeah. We also have folks that can help out with video marketing. We have folks that can help out on the legal side. So we're trying to surround these new and intermediate food entrepreneurs with absolutely everything that they need, from space, equipment, human resources, so that they can put themselves in the best possible position to accelerate their growth, hire more and more people. Obviously, that's going to increase tax revenue. I mean, everybody wins. We all get better food, different places to go try. So this is our annual fundraiser. We've already raised over $26,000, which was the most that we've raised last year. So we've already surpassed last year's number. This is going to be at Ryan Geist. We're kicking it off at 5 o'clock. The VIPs, those that are sponsoring the event, like myself, Kroger, Procter & Gamble, a whole bunch of others. We're going to have a VIP cocktail hour at 4 o'clock at Ryan Geist. 5 o'clock is the main event show. There's going to be music. I think there's 25 to 30 different food entrepreneurs prepping food and preparing food for everybody that's going to be there. Should be over 300 people again. So I'm very excited to be a sponsor of that and making the charitable donation to the Incubator Kitchen Collective. You can definitely check out the Incubator Kitchen Collective on all social media sites. So just go to Facebook and you'll be able to check that out. And if you're in the area, maybe not doing a whole lot on Sunday afternoon after a Bengals game, swing on by. We'd love to see you. And you get to try some really awesome food and meet some really cool people. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's why I'm going for the food.
And with that, I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. A whole lot of things coming out next week. We'll do this again next Friday, right around the same time, 4:15.
Sounds good.
And we should have a lot to talk about. So have a great weekend. Cheers. And we'll catch you guys again next week.
Cheers.